Mic'd up.
Good evening once again, everybody. Welcome back to another Highlights from Lowlifes episode. I think we're closing in on 40, or this may be 40 now. So
Oh wow.
there's well over one listener a week, and it's amazing the loyalty of that single person. So anyway, glad to be here. We are a bunch of mooks that play baseball together. Used to do these conversations during COVID just so we could stay in touch, and it evolved into something that Mic'd Up thought might make a good show. So let's get this cast of characters out of the way tonight. With us is Jonesy, Jeff Jones, Marty Three Finger Brown, and Terry Tiger Lee. So we got a great topic tonight. I was excited about this one. This is the top 5 players we never actually saw play live that we would have paid to see, or some format of that long sentence. But basically, guys that we never saw that we would have loved to have seen actually play to play baseball. So it should be a fun topic. We may as well just dive right in there. Terry, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, so how about you catch me off guard?
Already? Already?
All right, he played first base. He had a kind of a short career. His nickname was the Iron Horse. Lou Gehrig. Retired at 39 in 1939, and he's a Hall of Famer of 1939, and he's famous for being a great player, but he came down with this horrible ailment, and they had to name they had no idea what it was. They named this ailment after him, and the ALS is the incurable neuromuscular illness. ALS stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Wow, you practiced that.
Well, I am kind of medical, but I did have to look at it a few times.
Medical or mental?
Yeah.
Okay.
Medically, mental, same
Okay.
difference. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Yeah.
Sclerosis, ALS, or also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, the Iron Horse.
Yeah.
He's one of only 7 players because I had him under consideration that had 200 hits in a single season, had 200 hits, 40 home runs, 150 RBIs, and 400 total bases. There's only 7 guys in history that have done it. 6 guys did it one time. Gehrig did it 5 times.
His lifetime batting average was 340.
Yeah, incredible. 5 times with those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to. I mean, it's easy to go with pitchers, but so I had to go with the good old guy, Marty.
I just to start out with, I'm going to change the rules because I did see this guy. I saw him at Candlestick, and I saw him at the Oakland Coliseum. At Candlestick, he was with the Giants. At the Oakland Coliseum, it was World Series. He was with the Mets. I would love to seen Willie Mays in New York with the Giants.
I get it.
He was in the military in 1953, and the following year, he's the MVP of the league at 54. This guy must have been phenomenal. And we all know that over the shoulder catch that we see all the time. But just I had a chance to pull up just the statistics. You talked about Lou Gehrig and 200 hits in that year, 54 for the MVP. He was close, 195 in 100 and this was a 150 game season. Batting average was 345, slugging percentage 667, and 41 home runs.
Wow.
But he beat that.
This is the year he came back.
Yeah, and the year he came back after a year off, and he did
Was it
top that.
2 years off, wasn't it? Just 1 year?
Now my
Oh,
statistics show he played.
I'm talking about the military.
Right, he was
Did he
off for the
take? He took
military.
2 years off. One
Well,
year
it's
off.
okay. Well, in 50, the stats for 1952 had him with in 34 games. So it's probably,
Hmm.
a short period of time.
I
But to come back and play that well at that level must have been phenomenal to see.
I
Um,
mentioned that because a lot of the guys we're going to mention did have to take 2 years off to go to war,
Yep.
mhm,
and
right.
that'll come up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So what an amazing individual that to watch that he must have been as a New York Giant. So number 5 choice, Willie Mays.
Nice.
Good one.
Jeff, go ahead.
All right. I also have a giant. When you talk about guys in the 20s and 30s and 40s, a lot of names get bantered around, but this guy's name doesn't get off mentioned as often, but I think he should. Um, he doesn't always have the highest stats, but he's one of the guys that I bet that most people who mention guys in the 500 home run club won't mention his name, and that was Melot.
Mm.
Mm.
I would have
Ah,
loved to see him because he's one of those names that when you read those biographies or retrospectives and you pictures of that era, that's a name that keeps coming up of guys that they frustrated and didn't want to face was Mel Ott. I didn't. So I'm going to preface my whole list by saying I didn't study any stats. So don't look at me for he did this and he did that. I think he had 10 plus All Star appearances, um, multiple MVP votes. I can't quote you if he actually won any, but I know he was many times voted. But he was just uh, unbelievable player, and I would have loved to seen him play during that era when there were so many other good players out there.
It's a great call because he had that big high leg kick too
Yeah,
when he hit
yeah.
the
yeah,
big
and
huge
and
step in
from my
stride.
understanding, he wasn't a big dude. He was for the time for the comparison to others, he was not a big dude, but he stood right up with him.
Hmm, a good pick.
The Giants retired his number, correct?
I
Oh yeah.
believe
Yeah.
they did.
Number
Yeah. Oh
4.
yes. Number 4.
Yep.
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 It's up there.
That leaves you, Robbie.
All right. My number 5 pick is probably the only guy on the list for me that was steady, unassuming, worked hard, played hard. Um, every team's got their guy. There's the Yankees have Babe Ruth, and the Giants have Mays, and the Braves have Hank Aaron. This is the Cardinals guy, Stan Musial.
Mm.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
It was on
good
my
I
good
list.
one.
really, yeah, like most of the time I'm drawn to guys with a little flair and a little fun and everything associated with him. And Stan Musial just showed up to work and tried to beat you every game. Um, Played hard, played. I mean, everybody knows his numbers. Just 3,600 hits. I mean, people forget about that with all the 4,000 hits and all of that, but he's like third all time in total hits. Um,
Yeah.
just I think it would have been fun to see that guy play. Just the consistency and the steadiness. I mean, he hit 300 when he was age 40 in his final year. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he would have been a good guy to see. So yeah, Stan Musial, Stan the man.
Do you remember that documentary when it was a game
Yeah,
where they took old footage and there was a guy describing St. Louis and he said they had that old I don't remember what kind of advertisement on the wall and it was advertising and it said player of the game and they had a rotating board and the guy said you might as well just leave Musial up there.
yeah. uh, All right, well, that completes the first round. If you're
Good job.
watching live right now, make sure you hit the microphone button down at the bottom of your screen and leave us your list of guys you would have liked to see live. This is a fun topic, and I think we can get a big, broad cross section of players. So, all
Hey,
right, Marty.
hey, going back to Mel Ott, he had a cameo in Field of Dreams too.
No.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Really?
He's one of the
the-
several deceased
he was
players
that's
portrayed
right.
in Farmer.
When they
Roy-
bring out all
Ray.
the players from other teams, he was one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know.
So-
Wow. I
So
didn't know
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah.
All right.
And did he play
Uh,
only Giants,
yeah.
or did he was sorry, I don't mean
He was only
Other than-
Giants.
only
he was only
Giant. No,
Giants.
he didn't. He wasn't from New York to start with. Trying to skim this, but I can't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
he
while you're
was-
thinking out loud, I'm going to ask Marty to go next with round 4.
Here. Oh, New York Giants, right here,
Yeah.
26-47. Okay.
My number 4 was a guy you wish you could have seen play ball because what everybody else was saying about him. Sancho Page says, one time he hit a line drive past my ear. I turned around and saw the ball hit him as he was sliding into second. Think about it. And this was cool Papa Bell. And he did just do a little digging into this. Oh, come on, Terry, I want to see it. Come on.
It's a good thing he turned his camera off, but he left the sound on while we listened to him blow his nose.
The man played for over 20 years. 20 years with the speed that he had. Because he stole 175 bases in a 200 game season. Now, again, it's a lot of these statistics with the Negro Leagues were not kept, so they're just doing their best to find the box score in some obscure paper. Better part of 100 years, now 80 years ago, or maybe. So it's gonna. But just the guy was a legend. I mean, he started as a. Did you know he started?
Holy moly!
Well, I remember when I had my first beer.
More than half of it just ended up on the floor.
No.
Marty, finish up and go to Terry.
All right, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Right now.
Oh my goodness! So I've just pulled away and my slippers full of beer. Darn it!
All right, okay. All right. Okay. I can't
Worst part is I wasted half a beer.
Yeah. Again, and Double Duty Ratcliffe has a quote that I pulled up. If he bunts and it bounces twice, put the ball in your back pocket. And he said, so he roomed with Sancho Page in 1937 in California, and he said, and even he had to admit that there was a little, it wasn't the best room, and there was a little delay with the electricity. So, but it was true. By the Sancho Page says he turns the lights on and he was in bed before the lights got dark. Or the lights got dark before the room got dark. The man must have been incredible to watch, and to do it for that many years, over a 20-year career. I mean, we're old, decrepit guys, and at one time we thought we were in shape, but to do that as long as he did, he was well deserved in the Hall of Fame. So. Yeah. Terry, guess what? You're on. I tried to pad it a little bit, but there you go.
All right. My number 4 is Brooks Robinson. I got to go get a towel.
I think we're going to change your nickname from Tiger to Overflow or Spillage.
Well, it just dawned on me I hadn't pulled a beer out of the refrigerator yet. So when I yanked on it, it was still in the holder. And I guess I shook it, and then I brought it over. I opened it, and You know how that goes. Anyway, all right, Brooks Robinson. He retired. He's a third baseman. He retired, played for the Orioles. Mr. Hoover was his nickname. Retired in 1977. Hall of Fame in 1983. 16 gold gloves. And he was an all-star 18 times.
Yep.
Man, what a guy, Mr. Hoover. He was so smooth. I wish I would have been able to see him play live. I did actually meet him at one of our baseball camps in Florida.
Oh wow.
That was pretty cool. He's, super nice guy, of course. And there you go, Brooks Robinson, my number 4. Jonesy.
All right, I'm going back to the Giants, but I'm going even further back on the Giants. Pitcher Christy Mathewson. The stories that are told about him and how he worked and how good he was and how everybody hated to hit against him. He did have a couple of other, late in his career, a couple other teams, but I just looked it up. A career 2.1 ERA.
Wow.
That's pretty darn good, especially when you're pitching against Ty Cobb most of your career. Guys like that.
And,
Yeah.
Well,
so
pitching against most of these guys that we're going to mention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he was an all-star, an MVP. No, they weren't doing all-stars then. He was MVP. He did military time as well. But yeah, he was one of those guys that nobody could say anything bad about him. He was just one of those guys. And I think if I read this correctly, he threw a complete game shutout in like an hour and 15 minutes on 72 pitches or something like that. Something ridiculous like that. Yeah.
Trust your fielders.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, Robbie.
All right. I think I'm going to take one off of your list, but for a different reason, Jonesy, so you can keep it there. One of the great books of my childhood, this has traveled with me everywhere I've ever gone in my life. It's the Great American Baseball Card Flipping, Trading, and Bubblegum book. There's a handful of superstars in here, and then there's a bunch of guys like Gus Zernial and Albie Pearson and Harry Aganis and all these names, just guys that played in the major leagues. These are cards of their youth, and they had comments about the different guys. So one guy, I mean, he was a showman and a big star of the Negro Leagues. Satchel Paige is a guy I would have loved to have seen play. And if nothing else, then the 6 quotes of Satchel Paige's rules of a successful life. This is enough for me to wish I could have seen him play. Number 1, avoid fried meats, which angry up the blood. Number 2, if your stomach disputes you, lie down and pacify it with cool thoughts. Number 3, keep the juices flowing by jangling around gently as you move. 4, go very light on the vices, such as carrying on in society. The social ramble ain't restful. Number 5, avoid running at all times. Yep. And number 6, don't look back. Something might be gaining on you. So Satchel Paige, we all know the showmanship, but for me, that alone is 6 rules for a successful life.
Nice.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of round 4. I'm not sure what that means. Wait a minute.
Wait.
I think I do. It's time for What You Drinking, our favorite segment of the show. As always, we are sponsored by Almanac Brewing, one of America's leading craft brewers. We're all drinking different beers from Almanac. I have switched over in the lager series. I've switched with them. I am now drinking the Almanac Buenas Vibras. It's their Mexican-style lager. Super summertime beer. This thing's like a lot of their beers. It's got a lot of great flavor, yet it's really easy to drink. They do lagers really well. For a company that's known for their sours and their IPAs, they're killing it with their lagers. And como una pelea a la luz, mi atraía esta cerveza.
Good God.
So what you boys drinking?
Hey, well, I also changed over. I only got half of this. I'm drinking the I'm drinking the Almanac Italian Pilsner.
That's it. That's a good one.
Bella Blonde. Look at that. Bella Blonde.
It's good.
And
good
it
beer.
is light, refreshing, delicious.
I mean, you're halfway through the can already.
I know. Wait a minute. I'm sorry I wasted this. It's very refreshing. Guys?
I
Boy.
don't know if I should reveal or not. Because
Did he switch?
He he had to. Oh goodness.
No, he's got
Ah!
True Kolsch as usual.
I get something new here. So I buenas vibras.
See,
Buenas vibras. So I'm not sure if I got the right accent on the wrong syllable, but hey, it's yeah, almanac, it good stuff. And I said I've had all four. Excuse me, this is three. Excuse me, and they just continue to hit it out of the ballpark. So just grab whatever says almanac, and it's a winner. It truly is.
Is that a Cinco de Mayo thumbs up? Is it Mexican
Sure,
beer
okay.
style?
hey,
Obviously.
it's an Ocho de Mayo thumbs up. is what
Ocho,
it is.
that's an Ocho de Mayo. I get it.
And we got one. What you drinking call?
Great.
What you drinking? Well, actually, nothing at 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday before the show. But after this show and after the kids' game, I plan on having a porch light lager from Almanac.
Porch
Someone once
light.
said, I can't remember who, like a moth to a light, I'm drawn to this beer.
Moth to a flame.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers to that.
All right. Way to go, Coach JC. Thanks.
Thanks, Coach.
And thanks to Almanac for continuing to think that they might have some benefit for sponsoring this show and giving us free beer.
God knows why.
I absolutely see a benefit here.
Yeah. If you're in Alameda, make sure you swing by Almanac Brewing and hang out with them. They're a lot of fun. Tell them you heard about them from the highlights from the Lowlife show. They will take pity upon you.
Yeah.
So that'll bring us into round 3. Jonesy, you want to start this one?
Sure. This would probably be on any baseball fan's list that wasn't alive in the 1920s, 1930s. But
that'd be the 1900 kids.
But who else but the great Bambino? Come on, that's a very obvious choice for any baseball fan wanting to see the circus that was Babe Ruth at that time.
Yeah.
Just to see the swing, to see the run, to see how he interacts with fans, maybe see him at the bar later.
Yeah.
Maybe see him while you're in line for a hot dog.
Yeah.
There's
you can share.
It just epitomizes everything that baseball was and is.
You could share hangover stories with him.
That's right. Maybe learn how he functioned the next day.
Yeah. No kidding.
Because it wasn't through exercise.
we have a buddy that could share notes with him.
He was as outstanding a pitcher as he was a hitter.
Yeah.
He was just more valuable.
Basically had 2 careers.
Yep.
Yeah. All
And
right, throw it back to you, Robbie.
That caveman club they have in the Hall of Fame that he called a bat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Holy
That-
shnikes.
Do you mean the telephone pole?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so my number 3 is I think we are all unabashedly great lovers of baseball. We love the game. We love what it stands for. We love the history of it. I feel like in all of baseball history, there were only a handful of guys that love the game as much as those of us who couldn't play it but would have killed to do so. Um, and one of those guys has always fascinated me. He's overlooked often just because he played on such a crappy team for 2 decades. But he was a class player, played hard, and gosh darn it, when he'd always come out to the ballpark at Wrigley and say, "It's such a beautiful day, let's play two." That's got to be Ernie Banks. I saw a lot of the great players of the '60s and '70s live because God bless my parents when they used to buy tickets for the ball games. They bought not only were we going to go see the Giants and what have, or if we went to the A's game, they specifically bought the Braves so we could see Aaron, and the Pirates so we could see Clemente, and the Orioles so we'd see Frank and Brooks Robinson and Jim Palmer and all those guys. So I feel really fortunate. I saw a lot of those guys, but Ernie Banks, we never really went to see the Cubs. So I never got to see Ernie Banks, and I really would have liked to. And those guys that have played Stratomatic with me know that he was on my Hall of Fame team, and we picked our 100 loss team. I picked an Ernie Banks team. So Ernie Banks. Overflow. What do you got?
Oh, number 3. Center fielder, Jolton Joe.
Ah,
Joe DiMaggio. He retired in 1951. He had 361 home runs, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1955. He had the longest hit streak, which has not been surpassed, 56 games straight. And his hometown, do you know where he's from?
Martinez.
Martinez, California.
Yeah.
Joe DiMaggio, Jolton Joe.
I think I would have liked to have seen him with the San Francisco Seals in
Yeah.
the PCL. He had a 63 game hitting streak there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good God.
Unbelievable.
Didn't he hit like 30 straight games after the streak was broken?
Yeah, missed. He went 0 for 4 one day and then started another streak. Yeah.
And the 0 for 4 was like 3 amazing plays.
Yeah. They said it was like 3 of the hardest hit balls he had hit in 2 months.
Yeah. And then he went on to hitting like 30 more after that. Yeah. Insane.
And that's before he got to New York and became Joe DiMaggio. I think he seemed like a happy-go-lucky ball player in the minors in the Pacific Coast League. So
Yeah.
That was one of my honorable mentions.
My dad knew his family. My dad grew up in Martinez.
Oh,
Really?
So he was too young to know Joe, but he knew, his mom had a restaurant and market downtown that he would go into all the time, and my dad delivered the newspapers to their house and stuff like that. So
Wow.
knew the family pretty good, but didn't get to know any of the kids that ended up being major leaguers, unfortunately.
Wow. Hey Marty, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Number 3.
This was a guy I would like to see simply because of what, again, other people said about him. And then he pulled up some statistics about Bob Gibson and the man was phenomenal. Just 4 quotes, all from Henry Aaron.
Who?
Henry Aaron.
Okay.
Hank Aaron. Don't dig in. He'll knock you down. He knocked down his own grandmother. Don't stare at him. Don't smile at him. Don't talk to him. He doesn't like that. If you hit a home run, don't run too slow. Don't run too fast. You just don't. And when you celebrate, make sure you're in the tunnel first. And don't charge the mound. Don't charge the mound. He was the Golden Glove boxer. So I guess, best known for his performances in the World Series. In '64, he pitched 3 games and struck out 31 batters in 3 games.
Jesus.
In '68, he struck out 17 batters in 1 game against the Detroit Tigers. Gave up only 3 earned runs and 14 hits over 3 games in '67 against the Red Sox. And then you look at his record, his win-loss record, 251 and 174. How could a guy that can pitch like that lose 174 games?
And there's probably like 350 complete games in there.
Yeah, right. Twice Cy Young Award winner, twice World Series MVP, 9-time All-Star. And people said that this guy must have been the most intimidating SOB on the mound that's ever been there. And boy, would it be fun to watch to watch him pitch.
I'm not positive, but I think Willie Mays is the one that said he went one day. He got in there and started to dig in the box, and then he remembered that Gibson was pitching, and he stepped back out and got on the ground and pushed all the dirt back in where he was digging and smoothed it out.
Yeah, I don't care who you are. Nobody likes getting beaned.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no respect from Gibson.
Robbie, go ahead.
I think I did. We did round 3. Yeah,
I
think that was.
Am I done?
Everybody gone?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Oh, good. Okay.
So
cool.
let's turn the corner.
Fine.
Round 2. You still want me to go?
Why not?
Okay. I'm going to go back to my book, The Great American Baseball Card Flipping, Trading, and Bubblegum Book. This is for Minnie Minoso, and I would love to have seen Minnie Minoso. I've heard so many great things from guys that played against him and with him that enjoyed watching him play. I'm just going to read the little snippet here because this really sums it up for me. Minnie Minoso played the game the way it was supposed to be played. He did not have the power of a Mantle or the overall talent of a Mays, but he sprayed hits to all fields, never swung at a bad pitch, crowded the plate, bunted, stole bases, broke up double plays, made diving catches, and always hit the cutoff man. He loved to play baseball, was in every minute of every game he ever played, and never let up. No matter how one-sided the score, he was what baseball was all about, and as a matter of fact, he was still what baseball was all about into his 60s when he led the Mexican League in hitting.
Huh. Wow.
So, yeah, that's a baseball guy to me. Just that kind of guy. Played for the love of the game. And I don't need anything more than that summary right there. Manny Minoso, my number 3.
Very nice.
Number 2.
Number 2.
My number 2. Sorry.
Two.
All right, Marty, let's just flip back to you.
Hey, okay. He was said to hit 800 home runs in his career. 800. In 1933, he hit 467, 55 home runs in 137 games in all levels of competition. He is the Black Babe Ruth, and that was Josh Gibson.
Yeah.
Wow. What is a career batting average of 373? Some of the Negro League stats are not all available. One had quoted him as a lifetime batting average of 466. The man must have been an iron horse. I mean, of course, somebody else has that title, but
yeah.
They were saying that, and you know what? He passed away of the stroke at age 35. 35.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine it. We talked about Cool Papa Bell and all this, playing 20 years. To imagine what he would have done without medical condition. I mean, the man must have been an incredible, incredible sight to see as a ball player. Um, and a lot of they were saying a lot. Jackie, of course, Jackie Robinson wrote the Color Barrier, but they were saying there was other ball players that were and better, and they said it was Josh Gibson. I saw this quote and I thought it was interesting. Uh, One of the things that was disappointing and disheartening to a lot of black players at the time was that Jackie Robinson was not the best player. The best player was Josh Gibson. And I think that's one of the reasons why Josh died so early. He was brokenhearted.
Hmm.
Wow. Someone, wow.
Yeah.
He
What,
was an incredible man. What is
what
that would be
what
something to
year?
see.
What year did they allow black players in the MLB?
50s.
48, I believe.
48.
48?
Yeah.
48.
Yeah, right after a couple years
Yeah.
after the war. Yeah.
And when did Josh Bell pass away?
47.
Josh Gibson.
Or Gibson? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
47.
He didn't
right
get
before.
to see it.
Yeah.
He knew that Jackie was signed, and Jackie was in the minor leagues at the time, so he knew that, but he didn't get to see the Jackie play MLB.
Yeah.
Or anybody else for that matter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, good pick.
Thank you. Jeff, go ahead.
All right, my number 2 is another one of those guys that didn't get to play on a lot of winning teams, and maybe a little bit more notoriety than Mel Ott in terms of if you named all the players who had 500 home runs, you'd probably get to his name eventually. But he's my, if you go to my best of each position when you got to first base, I would choose Jimmy Fox every time. And that's a guy I'd like to see hit. The dude was built like a wall. You see him against these other guys, and it's like, children among a man. He's just this monster, and he could hit, he could play. He won MVPs. He was multiple times All-Star, but he also played for some bad Philadelphia Athletics teams, and a period in Boston where you didn't know if they were going to be good or not. They had some decent teams, but they never did anything in Boston when he was there. So I would have loved to seen Jimmy Fox play and see how. They said he was like Gibson. You heard it off the bat before you knew what happened. One of those guys.
Yeah.
I believe that leaves Terry with number 2.
My number 2 is a pitcher. We're coming down to pitchers now. The left arm of God is his nickname. Retired in 1951. He actually retired in 66.
Oh, okay.
Hall of Fame in 1972. His ERA was 2.76, 3 Cy Young Awards, 4 no-hitters. Sandy Koufax. I never got to see him. I think I'm old enough where I could have seen him, but I didn't. I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that.
Yeah.
Just all-star in every way.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
And didn't he marry the blonde Marilyn Monroe?
Marilyn Monroe. Yeah.
Guy.
No.
What? I think you mixed up your stats.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
That was Mr. Coffee. That was Mr. Coffee.
Oh.
Wow, that's a good thing you only drank half that beer.
Yeah. Must be my allergy medicine kicking in.
On top of that,
it's funny because I skimmed, I scrolled down really quick. And I'm like, that didn't sound right.
You gotta fire your producer.
That was my number 2. Yeah, I'm getting bad information in my headset. Sandy Koufax. All right, move on to number.
before
Oh.
one of these guys talks about mic'd up, I did want to give a birthday shout out to my daughter Michelle, who is the designer of the Highlights from Lowlifes logo that you see Marty and Jeff wearing tonight, and Terry has in the background. Uh, so just happy birthday, Michelle.
Happy birthday,
Yay.
Happy birthday,
Michelle.
Michelle.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Which one of you mooks wants to talk about mic'd up? The silence is deafening.
The silence speaks volumes.
If you're watching us, go watch some other stuff.
Yes.
Help
Well
out
said.
the other shows. They're all on the app. There's a bunch of guys that talk about the Yankees for some godforsaken reason. Rick Barry has a show. I honestly, I've completely lost touch. I'm not sure who's doing shows these days. Is Rick Barry still
Yeah,
going
yeah.
strong?
He just did
Good.
one last week.
Anybody else?
The three main ones right now, besides us, I mean, we're the number one rated show. But
Are we really?
It's the Yankees Coast to Coast
Boo.
and Rick Barry, as you mentioned. And Rick Barry, is obviously the most famous guy on here. And then Jim Darby, he used to call his show was called Bears and the Bigs because he wrote a book about guys that played at Cal and went on to the major leagues. But now he's going into his 40 plus years with Mizuno and Easton, where he was a player rep, getting them gear. And so now he's talking and telling a bunch of stories about guys like Pete Rose and Gary Sheffield and all these other guys that Ricky Henderson, that he had to work with during his career. So there's some great stories on that show. His show was always good, but now that he's focusing on this as a baseball guy, it's really good now and a lot of enjoyment. So
That's right.
yeah, there's a lot of
Ricky,
good stuff happening on Mic'd Up. So
Ricky
stay
used
with
to
us.
wear Mizuno. I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, and thank you to Mic'd Up.
Thank you, Mike Up. Yep, appreciate it.
All right. Well, that'll send us to round one. Anybody feel like leading off the inning here?
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay.
Is it anybody? You guys have known me, and we've done these podcasts for a while, and I keep bringing up this name, and I'll never let it go. Give me an opportunity to talk about Shoeless Joe Jackson, and I'll bring it up every single time. A career batting average of 356 in the dead ball era of baseball. Rookie year, 1911. Again, the dead ball era of baseball, 408. The following year, he slumped, 395. Bad, man. Bad.
He slumped.
Won the World Series in 17. The scandal of 19. But the takeaway is, and again, is it true? Is it not? It's a great story. It's a great legend, and that's what makes baseball. That Babe Ruth was modeled his batting style after Shoeless Joe Jackson. Again, this is a great topic that we're doing tonight, where you can envision just seeing those great ball players just roam, and with the gloves. And I think of baseball today with the equipment, and everything like that, and these guys didn't have that. They were just true athletes and tough dudes to be able to go through an entire season with metal spikes and something that looks like maybe a glove today or something, running into walls that weren't padded. Phenomenal. And once again, put Jackson in the Shoeless Joe Jackson in the Hall of Fame. Grr. Go ahead. What will we call overflow? Go ahead, overflow.
All right. My number one is a pitcher. His nickname is the Ryan Express. I never got to see him live.
Really?
I would have,
Really?
if I knew, if I would have been able to make it. He retired in 1993, Hall of Fame in 1999. His ERA was 3.19. No Cy Young Awards, and he has 7 no-hitters.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting stat. He's got the best lifetime batting average of all. He's got the major league record for all pitchers in the Hall of Fame with it's a meager 204, but that's pretty dandy for a pitcher. You know, we always joke he's not a ball player, he's a pitcher.
Yeah. And he's got a hell of a vice grip. Just ask Robin Ventura.
Yeah.
Yeah.
204 would be third on the San Francisco Giants of 2024.
maybe better.
Yeah.
Anyways, Nolan Ryan. That's
Wow.
my number one pick of players you wish you had been able to see play. Jonesy?
Number one. Anybody who knows me is probably surprised at this point in my list that I haven't named any players from the Negro Leagues. And that is because I could have named an entire 20 out of the Negro Leagues.
Right.
So my number one is the Negro Leagues.
That's good.
And it really, and it's a joke, but it is true.
It's true.
That is what, out of all, I would love to have seen. So I'm going to rattle off a few names and a few highlights of people I would have loved to seen. Satchel Paige was already mentioned. You know, the stories that go along with him. I want to see, you know, how much in his prime, when there was, you know, no cameras, nothing around, and he was just being him against the guys he was playing against and in front of the crowd. You know, earlier in his career when he was pitching full games, what it was really like to see him pitch. I would have loved to have seen that. The guy who usually followed him, who a lot of people say were as good as him, he just didn't say anything, was Hilton Smith. I would have loved to have seen Hilton Smith because they said he had the best curveball ever. The guys who saw it said there was nobody who had a curveball like he did. The guy who could play 4 games in one day, pitch 2 complete games and catch 2 complete games, Ted Double Duty Radcliffe. That must have been a spectacle to watch that guy play.
Yep.
Marty mentioned Cool Papa Bell. You know, there's one thing to have speed, but you got to get on base, and he got on base a lot. And he was, from what I hear, a hell of an outfielder. Josh Gibson is one of my favorites of all time. I would have loved to have seen Josh Gibson play the way he did cover. You know, he had a hell of a high batting average, and he learned to be a good catcher. He wasn't always a good catcher. He learned to be a good catcher and ended up being one of the best of all time. A man who is in 4 countries' Hall of Fame for baseball, Martin Diego. He was a utility player that could play all 9 positions and play them well and manage. You got to be pretty good to get into 4 different countries' Hall of Fame.
Do you happen to know which countries those are besides U.S.?
U.S., Mexico, Cuba, and I want to say Puerto Rico or maybe Valenzuela. I don't remember which the 4th one was.
Wow.
You hear the term 5-tool player. This next guy was a 6-tool player. He could do it all. Plus, he was a Hall of Fame level manager, Oscar Charleston.
Yeah.
He was called the Black Babe Ruth before Josh Gibson because he was about 10 years older. And they said that he could do everything on the field whenever he wanted to. He could hit home runs whenever he wanted to. He could steal bases whenever he wanted to. He could lay down a bunt. He could go opposite field. He could do whatever he wanted. And he was a hell of a center fielder. And I'm saving my final one, not only because he is one of my favorites, not only because I do have his jersey, but it's also his birthday.
Oh.
From the Detroit Stars, Norman Turkey Stearns. Turkey Stearns. I would have loved to see him play. He was also a 5-tool player that anybody in the Negro League that is quoted has said they were one of their favorites to watch play was Turkey Stearns. So that's my number one is all of the Negro Leagues. That leaves you, Robbie.
All right. Well, my number one was really the ultimate showman, ultimate clown, the kind of player that I think was kind of um, around at different levels, local and the minor leagues, and even in the major leagues. Guys that were there to play ball and have a good time, and make people laugh and enjoy the game. And they don't allow that anymore in the modern era. You cannot do many of the stunts that this guy did that made him beloved. He's a Hall of Famer. Has the most putouts recorded at shortstop all time with 5,139 putouts. I think Ozzie Smith is like second with 3,800. So it's a huge, it's a huge number that a guy with all the stunts that he pulled, Rabbit Moranville.
Knew that would be
This
on
is
your
a
list.
guy who used to keep glasses in his back pocket, and when the umpire made a strike 3 call that he didn't like, he'd pull the glasses out of his back pocket and hand them to the umpire. He's a guy that at one time faked a crime scene in his hotel room, was screaming, yelling, gunshots, broke a bunch of glass. His teammates came breaking through the door, and he's like, "Hey, fellas, what's going on?"
What a prankster.
Yeah, when the teams would drive back in the day, they used to travel by train, and he would dress up as one of the porters on the train and go through, and guys would order coffee, and he'd pour whiskey, and guys were half asleep, and he'd like force them to drink things and take food, and I mean stuff you couldn't possibly get away with today with the multi-million-dollar crybabies that we have. And I think my favorite Rabbit Moranville story is one of the games. I think he was with the Cardinals, and there was a huge brawl with the Pirates, and both teams emptied, and it was a pretty serious brawl. And Moranville ran out on the field and started fighting with himself. And the crowd slowly kind of noticed, and then the players on the field started to notice, and it's actually what ended the brawl, and everybody ended up
started laughing
as he was beating himself up, knocking himself to the ground, dragging himself around, dragging himself back up, and punching himself again. So yeah, I would have paid to have seen that for sure.
So Robbie, your reference book, does it have all the stats and nicknames and everything?
The stats don't matter for Rabbit Moranville.
No, I mean generally on in the reference book.
This one's all about baseball cards and stuff, but I've got a book for it.
Oh,
so I mean, he was primarily known for his defense, some clutch hits. He wasn't a great hitter, but really for him, it wasn't about all those numbers and everything. It was just about playing baseball and enjoying the fact that he got to have a 23-year career being a 12-year-old.
Perfect.
Yep. All right. We got a bunch of calls, so I think we better start naming those off, huh? Big Juicy's here.
Big
Well,
Juicy.
I'm starting off with somebody who was not a player, but still very much part of the game, going back a few years ago. That would be Bob Motley, umpire from the Negro Leagues era. And they were very much part of the show, in great gymnastic shape to be able to call balls and strikes and safe and outs out on the bases and give the fans quite a show in doing that.
All right. That's a good call.
Yeah.
Very good.
Next up on my list is a rather unique individual, Mo Berg. The catcher was a spy. This guy was a spy in World War II. He signed with the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was a good catcher, but a horrible hitter. He spoke 7 languages, and he was going to law school at Columbia while playing for the Dodgers and for other major league teams. An incredible individual all the way around.
Yeah, his story is fascinating.
My top choice is a Hall of Fame pitcher. Might be described as one of the more distracted players in the history of baseball, whether it be fire trucks, puppies, shiny objects in the stands. He was arrested for bigamy because he forgot to divorce a second wife before marrying his third. And his off-season training, well, he'd be gone for several months at a time until they finally discovered where he was. He was alligator wrestling in a circus. I'm talking about Rube Waddell.
The old Rube.
The old Rube. Going back to Bob Motley, you guys know this from our trip, but if any of the audience wants to know about Bob Motley, there's a great book called Ruling Over Monarchs, Giants, and Stars. It's a very good autobiography and tells some great stories of that time in the Negro Leagues.
Yeah, and before I play the next one too, there's also a great book about the history of the Negro Leagues called Only the Ball Was White.
Yes.
Yep.
That's a great book. So if you have the opportunity to read that. All right. Next one is from our friend at Yankees Coast to Coast.
Ooh.
Hey, fellas, Michael Miller, Yankees Coast to Coast here. I would go with Shoeless Joe Jackson because I think it would be Juan Soto-esque, if not better. Bob Feller in his prime to see how much harder he threw than everybody else. Babe Ruth because he's larger than life. Then I would go with Satchel Paige in his prime. And last but not least, Sid Finch. I mean, the guy threw 118 miles an hour, according to Sports Illustrated. How could you not want to see that?
Good job. Good job.
For those of you that don't know about Sid Finch, Google him.
Yeah.
The real life Sid Finch was Steve Dalkowski, and that's kind of a sad tale, but he's a guy that was throwing 105, 110 miles an hour. So, hey, Ezra von Mermelschwanz has called in.
What show is he on?
Ezra von Mermelschwanz coming at you from Yankees Coast to Coast. Most certainly would have been 1955 versions of Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, and Duke Snider. Something about seeing those guys all playing on one weekend at one of the three stadiums would have been something to see.
I feel like there should be a song about that.
Yeah. That's a good call. That's a hell of a call.
I like how we see him on a weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. See each guy. Yep.
Yeah.
Ezra follows it back up.
Ezra von Mermelschwanz coming at you for part 2. You might expect Babe Ruth would be on my list, but there's something about that tubby lard tush going first to third just doesn't light my fire. So I'll move on to the great Pirates right fielder Roberto Clemente, making a perfect bullet throw from the base of the wall to third base on a fly. That would be something.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned on the show, but I got to see Clemente even as a little kid, and I still have such vivid memories of just how much more active and motion there was with him than anybody else on the field at any time. It was just...
Yeah, same here. He stood out.
He was riveting.
He was a guy to watch.
Yep. JC
here. With number 5, contrary to popular belief, I was not alive when Babe Ruth last played in 1935 for the Boston Braves. He died almost a year before I was born, but I would have loved to have seen him play in his heyday, particularly 1927, when he hit 60 home runs and hit 356.
Wow.
Yeah. Number 4 coming up. JC number 4, Cool Papa Bell. Played from age 17 to age 47. Faster than the light. Could pitch, play center. Hit 331 over his 30-year career. Number 3, Josh Gibson. Hit almost 800 home runs in his 17-year career. Number 2 and number 1 coming up.
Hey, he stole my list.
Yeah, pretty much.
JC with number 2, Mel Ott. In 1930, he hit 349. He hit 304 over his 22-year career. Number 1, although he is of my era, I never got to see Roberto Clemente play in person. Rifle arm and right, 12 gold gloves, 18 seasons, 3,000 hits.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty darn impressive for sure. That's
Exactly.
yeah, good list. Those were
Yeah.
good picks from everybody.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It was great.
Hey.
There's a ton of guys we didn't even name that
Oh yeah.
would
Oh.
be absolutely included on a serious list like this. So we have, I'm sure we have honorable mentions.
Well, I got to give it to our callers. They're really into it. They're baseball fans.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the number of people that reference Negro League players because I think I mean, Jeff clearly here is our resident historian of the Negro Leagues, but there were some players there that were absolutely incredible that we were all deprived of. Even if we had been alive at the time, we would have been deprived of seeing, and that's just a shame. It's
And
just not
yeah, and
appropriate.
and there's 30 more we could name. Easy.
Easily.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even I mean,
we weren't able to freeze our butts off at Candlestick watching him either.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I even think like remember the baseball documentary, The Nine Innings by Ken Burns,
Yeah.
Hmm.
how Buck O'Neill comes off in that as just you want
Yeah.
to sit next to that guy at a game and just talk baseball for the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how those leagues could have shaped baseball in such a better way, even
I
better than what we're used to already.
yeah, I just
Right.
recently heard an interview with Turkey Stearns' granddaughter and and her aunt. And they would just talk about the kids would tell stories about how Grandpa Turkey would be sitting on the porch and Uncle Satchel would come over and talk baseball for a while and you know just all that kind of stuff. Like,
Man,
Oh
oh
yeah. Oh
man.
my
to
God.
be a fly on the wall there.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah, exactly.
Just every night somebody else would come over and they would be talking about the old days and you're just like, who is that? Oh, just nobody, just one of the
Unc-
greatest players of all time that
Uncle Satchel.
most people don't
Right.
know of.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
We don't. He's not related, but we call him Uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got to.
Well, go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
gonna say we got a last minute call in, but go ahead and throw out your thought, and I'll get that queued up.
Oh no, I was just gonna thank our callers for
Oh,
calling.
well, we
in.
got one more call.
Yeah. Great.
In no particular order, I would have liked to have seen Vita Blue play as a Giant. I saw him as an A, and as a good friend, I would have liked to see him as a Giant in my team. Mike McCormick. I met him at
good
Rob's
choice.
Fantasy Camp, and such a nice, wonderful man, and I would have liked to have seen him pitch during his Cy Young era. The other one's coming up.
Oh, she's picking up the JC approach. I like it.
Bob Howler, another one of Rob's Fantasy Camp coaches. Nice, wonderful man, but all of his stats and everything, I would have loved to have seen him play as well. Yogi Berra, after seeing a documentary
of course.
recently, he reminds me of all of you guys playing. Just loved the game, played hard, left it on the field, and was wonderful.
Full of bull.
And number one coming up.
It's what we would be like if we had any talent.
Amen.
Or
Amen.
brains.
I mean, if we go back and redo our movies or our documentary list, like to update it to where we feel,
Yogi documentary is up there.
it is great. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
Yogi
embarrassing.
was on my honorable mentions.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got to know me. It's going to be the Say Hey Willie Mays is my number one. I would have loved to have seen him play. I'm blessed and very pleased that he's still around, celebrating 93 years this year.
Good call.
That he's around and I at least get to see him in all his glory, but I would have loved to have seen him play the game because he looked like an amazing player.
yeah. Well, that Vonnie, she's so young, she never would have seen him.
Yeah, but she married a guy that saw him.
Oh well, he's a geezer.
Why do we have to keep bringing him up all the time?
Yeah.
Well,
good choice.
I like the McCormick reference. He's a sweetheart of a man.
Yeah.
I think I told you this once before. I went to camp, Giants camp, and he was my coach, and we loved the guy. When I came home, I was talking to this little old lady who used to be the wife of my childhood doctor. Turns out they were famous friends. And my childhood doctor, I'm 60 years old now. And I had no clue that she was a huge fan. She'd go to spring training every year and hang out with Mike McCormick.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Neat little story
Yeah.
related
Great
to Mike.
story. All right. So we have honorable mentions.
The only one I got that hasn't already been mentioned is Big Train, Walter Johnson.
Okay. Yeah.
I heard he just threw the hell out of the ball.
I have one that I never got to see, which was pitcher Jim Palmer, Orioles. He retired in '84, Hall of Fame in '90. His ERA was 2.86 lifetime. He has one no-hitter, 3 Cy Young Awards, and he never allowed a grand slam in the majors. That's his. There's a quote here.
Yeah.
Jim Palmer.
Yeah, correct. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were all there at the Hall of Fame and saw that Ted Williams baseball batting chart.
Yes.
And
yeah, I'm surprised Ted Williams didn't make an appearance yet. But yeah.
So that's So it was so impressive. If you again, it's on it should be on everybody's bucket list. And and they're just how many baseballs were on there? What do you think? Over 100?
So 10 by 10, probably.
10 by, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the red ones were his hot spots and everything. The whole freaking thing was red. I mean, he could hit anything anywhere.
And he wrote on
Ted
each
Williams.
baseball. He wrote on each baseball his expected batting average. If every pitch was thrown to him in that spot, that's what he thought he would hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible, man.
Yeah.
Ted Williams.
We're talking about the baseballs in his strike zone.
Yeah,
right.
Where he would
his strikes,
where he would make contact, and this is what he would do. He had a chart.
He said if every pitch in his career was thrown in that spot, I would hit 260, and then the next one over it'd be like 285, and then the next one over would be 330. Like it was just it's
and it was and again they were color coded too. And wow, it was
there's images of this online. You can easily find it. Just
it's a science.
It's
Ted Williams. Ted Williams.
I had 3 guys. Ted Williams was one of them, but I left him off my list only because I've mentioned on the show before too. We used to go see the Senators and the Rangers when he was the manager, and he always took batting practice. So in a way, I feel like I saw him hit, which is what he did. He wasn't really a fielder per se, but he's on there. Bob Feller, who, they had that machine that went 100 miles an hour from the mound, and his ball went faster than the little machine.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have actually seen that specific moment, really, but I think watching Bob Feller pitch would have been great. And then Tanner Boyle. I wish I had seen Tanner Boyle. Tanner Boyle of the world famous Bad News Bears.
Was Bob Feller the one that threw against the motorcycle?
Yeah. Yep. They did all sorts of things to show that he couldn't throw 100 miles, and he beat everything every time.
And he also did he was the one who did annual barnstorming with Satchel's teams.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I also would have loved to have seen any old-timey pitcher with that weird, funky rocking back and forth and the whole arms around windup. Nobody does that now, not even for fun. And I would love to have seen somebody do that in my lifetime. Terry, you got anything?
Jim Palmer, and then
oh, that's right.
The one player that I had was from the Japanese. He's
Sadaura O?
Yeah, O. Yeah, Jonesy. Oh, yes.
Oh,
Oh, he has some
oh.
wicked stats, but it's a different size field, different speed of pitchers. I mean, you can't really compare, but for everybody who was on the same field on the same day, he stood out.
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. Again, that's someone you pay to see. Yep.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
Well,
mean,
it's a
you
great
know,
topic. This was a lot
I
of
think it's
fun.
tremendous. We had a good, this is very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
with that, I mean, we could ramble all night, but you'd all fall asleep. So
I gotta wash the floor here,
yeah.
and I have to rinse off my shoes.
So we'll give a big thank you out to Almanac once again for continuing to sponsor the Low Life Show. We'll be back next week with a new topic. If you can't be with us live, you can leave a message ahead of time. So don't be afraid to do that and participate in the show one way or the other. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Now here's where we awkwardly all stare at the camera.
Smile. Smile, damn it. Smile.
Enjoy yourselves.
How come I finished my beer so fast?